Hello, boys and girls. Got another fine video for you fine folks on the internet. Another installment in the Matthew Buckley Talks music series. Today, looking at another folk, rocky singer-songwriter album from the 1960s. Catch the Wind by Donovan. Released in 1965 on Hickory Records. Initially issued on Pye Records in the United Kingdom and the rest of the world as What's Been Did and What's Been Hid, but retitled specifically for U.S. markets on its Hickory Records release to capitalize on the success of the Catch the Wind single, which had come out just prior to the album. But it was first reissued in 1969 on Marble Arch Records for United Kingdom and Canadian markets, and then again much later in 1978 reissued by Pye Records as a German import retitled Pop Gold, which is interesting, with a totally different cover art. And it was given its first CD issue in 1991 on Marble Arch Records' Success imprint for United Kingdom import, and was issued again 5 years later in 1996 on Sequel Records as a United Kingdom import with 3 bonus tracks. And then 5 years later, reissued by Castle Music Records as a United Kingdom import in 2001 with 4 bonus tracks on that issue. In the same year, it was issued as a Vivid Sound Corporation Japanese import for CD audiophile collectors, and finally given a U.S. CD reissue in 2002 on the Castle Music and Sanctuary Records through BMG Direct as the expanded 4-track version. But with 4 bonus tracks, I mean. Pardon me. And it's since been issued as a mini LP replica Japanese import twice. Once in 2006 on Strange Days Records, and again in 2019 on Old Days and Clink Records. Again, both as Japanese imports for, those audiophile collectors. And recently in 2020 it was issued as a limited edition blue translucent European import vinyl through the Music on Vinyl label. And this past year in 2021, the same Music on Vinyl issued it as a standard black vinyl. But a little background for anyone who might not be familiar. Donovan Leitch was born May 10th, 1946 in Glasgow, Scotland, to working-class parents, and he actually contracted polio in childhood, and as a result developed a limp. And in his early adolescence, his family moved to Hertfordshire, England, and all were enamored with the growing folk music scene. His mother and sisters all sang for pleasure, and his father wrote and read poetry as a passion. The fusion of poetry and musical influences at family gatherings naturally synthesized with Donovan's interest in the growing beatnik scene, and at age 14 he took up both guitar and drums. He learned traditional folk and blues songs and began writing originals of his own, and so he dropped out of art school by age 16 to hitchhike and busk on the streets and play whatever folk music clubs would have him. And in a short time, he was actually offered a publishing contract and recorded a 10-track demo tape. This led to a residency of sorts on the British music television program Ready, Steady, Go, which in turn led to a recording contract with Pye Records. His career practically exploded from that point on. His first TV appearance being in February of 1965, his debut single, Catch the Wind, backed with Why Do You Treat Me Like You Do, issued the next month on March 12th, and his debut album, What's Been Did and What's Been Hid, hit store shelves the following May, 4 days after his 19th birthday. So, on to this edition of the album. Side 1 opens with Josie, one of Donovan's earliest compositions, a fairly straightforward love song. A declaration of dedication and commitment, desiring one more chance with a lover. As he sings, I won't fail ya. I love a line like, I've a weary kind of feelin', like my time has come and gone to waste. It's a solid song. The next track is, as far as the US issue goes, the title track, Catch the Wind. Released as his debut single on March 12th, 1965 through Pye Records in England, where it peaked at number 4 on the UK singles chart. And when it was subsequently issued in the United States in the following weeks, it reached number 23 in the US Billboard Hot 100 chart. Interestingly enough, there have been a few different versions of this recording over the years. The original single version featured echo on Donovan's vocal and added string orchestration. The song was re-recorded for the album release without the echo and without the strings, but adding a harmonica solo. It was subsequently re-recorded again in 1968 when Donovan's new label Epic Records was compiling the massively successful album Donovan's Greatest Hits, as they were either unable or unwilling to secure the rights for the original recordings of Catch the Wind and Colors, and so Donovan re-recorded both songs in session with a full band. So this second version, the original album version, is easily one of my all-time favorites. Simple in construction, but one of Donovan's most heartfelt and emotional ballads. There's no cosmic hippie nonsense as Donovan would embrace in the following years. There's no beatnik wordplay or sarcasm, no goofy musical humor or lyrical jokes, just raw, vulnerable honesty. I could go on at length, but instead will simply say that I love this song. It's near and dear to my heart and chokes me up every time. And any of you who are interested should check out my video I uploaded last month for Donovan's birthday, in which I perform an acoustic cover of this song in my back porch sunroom. I think it's not too shabby, if, for an amateur like myself, if I can be moderately boastful. I'm no Donovan, but who is? Him? That's it. So anyways, the next track, The Alamo, is credited as a traditional folk song arranged by Donovan on this release, but was actually written as Remember the Alamo by Texas folk singer-songwriter Jane Bowers. It's a very historical account of the last days of the Battle of the Alamo, name-checking several real-life people involved in the event. The song's first release was apparently by American country music singer Tex Ritter, featuring concurrently in the film Down Liberty Road the following year. The song has been recorded since by many artists, the Kingston Trio, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Asleep at the Wheel, and plenty of others in the folk, country, western idiom. Unlike many other readings, Donovan's arrangement forsakes any backing vocals, marching drum beats, or, rigid guitar strums. He opts to instead sing the song in a stoic delivery with basic acoustic accompaniment from his own guitar. It's a great song. Great reading of a good song. The next track, Cuttin' Out, is something of an enigma to me. It's got a very cool, downright sly groove, but the lyrics seem like they tell part of a story. Not exactly enough that you really know what's going on. He's looking for someone, presumably his lover, his woman. He can't find her, so he cuts out. He stands behind a colored man at a bar. Nobody gets served. Nobody cares. They cut out. That's it. So, Is there a story? I don't know. That being said, the song musically is real tight. And it's something of a highlight for me. It's definitely the grooviest song on the album. Young Donovan must have been very proud of himself when he wrote that one. So, it's good by me, weird as it is. The next track, Car, Riding in My Car, speaking of weird, is easily the goofiest song on the album by a wide margin. And that being said, it was originally written as a nursery rhyme by Woody Guthrie, so I mean, it is a children's song. And being a Guthrie cover, the comparison to early Bob Dylan can't help but be made. I could easily see the young Dylan of, 1961 to 1963 performing this with his own, nasally delivery. But the next track, Keep On Truckin', is a traditional blues song arranged by Donovan. Fast-paced, it's a folk blues romp that, again, draws comparison, in my opinion, to early Dylan. It features accompaniment from the full band, percussion, bass, and even kazoo. This is, in my opinion, the most fun song on the album, a killer and a side one. And side two opens with a song written by British folk singer-songwriter Mick Softly, Gold Watch Blues. It's a very beatnik folk song, drawing clear comparisons between what it portrays as pointless careerism, as George Carlin would say, to slavery. There's a great line in the first verse about filling a job application that inquires the color of my toilet roll and if my cousin's queer. And there's a fantastic line later about the manager requesting that if you have to die on the job, please do it during tea break. Harsh. The next track, To Sing For You, is a classic Donovan original, infamously featured in the Bob Dylan film Don't Look Back, performed intimately and casually by Donovan in a hotel room with Dylan and his entourage. Another simple but straightforward and accomplished work for any young songwriter, clearly from his heart in his formative songwriting years. The next song, You're Gonna Need Somebody on Your Bond, is an old traditional gospel and blues song first recorded by and sometimes credited to Blind Willie Johnson in late 1930. This version is for some reason credited to Donovan himself, but is in any case heavily derived from the version recorded by Indigenous Canadian-American singer-songwriter Buffy St. Marie, which itself was rearranged for acoustic guitar and solo vocal with somewhat revised lyrics. This track also features full band accompaniment and is a full-blown blues workout with the trio trudging and thumping along through some of Donovan's most sneering vocal delivery of the album, and a couple very bluesy harmonica solos. Good stuff. Genuine toe-tapping, head-bobbing music. It gets you moving. The next track, Tangerine Puppet, is a breathtakingly gorgeous instrumental by Donovan, an acoustic finger-picking showcase that, after just carrying you away, dissolves into the ether almost as suddenly as it emerged. Just short of 2 minutes of beauty, downright sublime. Highlight of the album. And the next track, Donna Donna, is credited as public domain, but is known to be derived from the Yiddish Dana Dana, written in 1941 by American composer Shalom Secunda and Russian author Aaron Zeitlin for his stage production Esterke. Probably mispronounced both their names and the stage production, but whatever. It was translated into English in the 1950s by Arthur Kavess and Teddy Schwartz, and it has been recorded by countless performing artists over the decades. Joan Baez, the Chad Mitchell Trio, Patty Duke, Chad and Jeremy, and Mary Hopkins, just to name a few in the folk and pop idiom. Donovan's reading is arranged closely to the Joan Baez arrangement, recorded for her 1968 self-titled debut album on Vanguard Records. And though it certainly isn't the highlight of the album, it is still a very solid performance in its own right, with an unfaltering delivery from Donovan. And the next track, Ramblin' Boy, is another original and arguably one of the strongest on the album. The verses, musically, bear a strong resemblance in part to It Ain't Me Babe by Bob Dylan in the pre-chorus. But in any case, it's a great song. One of my favorites on the album, and a very strong end to side 2 in the album as a whole. So, final thoughts. This is a fantastic album from start to finish, and in my opinion, one of the strongest debut albums by any folk singer-songwriter. And though he would go on to have much more ambitious and sprawling conceptual projects in only a couple of years, on this album, he sounds so focused and certain of himself and his songs, and only at age 19. The album was hugely successful in Britain, peaking at number 3 on the UK albums chart, the highest of any of his studio albums. And upon release in America, made crossover success as well, reaching number 30 on the US Billboard 200. It included the anchor of Donovan's hugely successful single, Catch the Wind, which was not only an enormous seller and chart success on its own, but has been covered by dozens of artists, from Johnny Rivers to Chet Atkins to Paul Revere and the Raiders to Cher to Glenn Campbell to the Letterman to Eartha Kitt to Susanna Hoffs to Ricky Lee Jones, and bringing things somewhat full circle, Joan Baez in duet with her sister Mimi Farina. Its enduring popularity has led to placement in films and television programs over the last 30-plus years, and has been instrumental in the preservation of Donovan's presence in the public consciousness. Thankfully, as well, unlike many artists of the 1960s whose international re-releases of their albums were not only often retitled, but resequenced and reshuffled or even remixed, I'm looking at the Beatles' Capitol albums in particular. This retitled release of What's Been Did and What's Been Hid at least maintains the track list and for most part sound of the original version. So I got, no real complaints there. Although interestingly enough, I found out while doing research for this video that not only did they retitle it, but they flipped the album cover. Originally, Donovan is facing on opposite side. You could, it switches his handedness in this image, so that's bizarre. But, whatever, that happens. So, let me bring out the record here, show you the Hickory label. If you get a decent view there, side 1. Nothing too fancy, but again, a very solid album. Here's a closer look at the flipped cover, and there's some ugliness on the back here, but here's the back cover. Ignore the staining and the ugly staining in the cover that obscures these liners here, but there you can still see the nice picture of Donovan and the all-important track info. So, the important stuff is still there. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up now because we're getting close to 20 minutes, but I'd definitely not hesitate to give this album easily 8 out of 10. This is a stellar album. If a couple songs from his second album were on here, it would easily be 9 out of 10, potentially even 10 out of 10. But That's Fantasy Talk. So this debut album right here, this edition of his debut album, is stellar. It's 8 out of 10 in my opinion. So let me know below in the comments. Are you familiar with this album in either its US iteration, Catch the Wind, or its original worldwide release as What's Been Did and What's Been Hid? Are you familiar with Donovan at all, or any of his work? His much later work, not much later. His later work very quickly gets much more hippy dippy, and anyone who knows Atlantis knows what I'm talking about and that sort of thing. But it's all still great. I love Donovan. He's quirky, but you gotta love the guy. So thanks for listening to me ramble. Thanks for watching. I appreciate any viewership. I'll catch y'all next time. This has been Matthew Buckley Talks Music with Donovan. Catch the Wind. Music is the best.